William and Harry, of course, put on a united front, didn't they, yesterday? It was nice to see as they unveiled the statue of their mum, Princess Diana, to mark what would have been her 60th birthday. Linda, I found it really heartwarming, actually. Harry looked to be really making an effort to be warm, at least publicly.
It was so nice to see the brothers together again after all this time. And hopefully they sat down and had a little chat and made it up. And we like to think that they'll go back to how it was before all this trouble happened and that with them. But, yeah, it was just lovely to see them, wasn't it? It was really, really lovely. And Diana would have been proud to see them both together as well, wouldn't she?
And relieved, actually, possibly.
Yeah, I know.
You do wonder how much of it was it for us, because we do demand quite a lot, don't we, as a public?
Oh, I'd like to think it was for Diana, for their mum. I mean, they both loved their mum and she absolutely adored them too. So I think it was just bringing them together, like, on this special day for her.
And how do we heal a rift, though? That's the question, I suppose, isn't it? Because are we asking them to... I think we want them to heal it quickly. But, you know, these rifts come up, don't they, over years and years of unspoken, unsaid, some... You know, and then something happens and you go, I can't take any more.
I think that's the thing. For me, I think it's harder to... when you have a fallout with a good friend who, you know, you've told all your secrets to and they know everything about you, and then you have... It's happened to me where it wasn't even a fallout. There was something that was said and I didn't know that I'd said something, and then we stopped talking, and then it got longer and longer and longer, and before you knew it, it was a year and a half and we hadn't spoken. And then it's like, well, how do I pick that conversation back up again and that awkwardness? And when all it took was for me to just make a phone call and say, OK, I'm sorry, and just have a conversation and talk it out. A year and a half of not speaking could have been absolutely saved. So I think it's, you know, it's important, the communication size, but it's much easier when it's a family than a friend, I think.
Do you think so?
I think so.
I personally don't think so, because when my mum died, we found a letter that she'd left saying about her three girls. She absolutely adored the three of us and just saying, hope you all stick together. And we had a little tiff not long after she died over something really silly, and it went on for quite a long time. And no one was making the first move. And I drove over to the cemetery to see my mum and dad, and I saw my sister standing there with her husband at the time. And I drove past them, and then I suddenly thought, why have I just drove past my sister? I love my sister. And I reversed back, and, like, we didn't say anything, but we just cuddled each other, and it was like, thank God. And we never ever spoke about what happened after that, but it was just like, I just thought, and I was so glad that I did, because not long after that, my sister's husband died. So, and obviously we were there for her then and that. So I think it's really important that sometimes you have to be the one, the one that makes the first sort of move to try and make up and that, really.
And I think with family, I certainly find that having a son as well is that, you know, I have to sometimes put my own feelings or my own sort of, you know, if somebody's annoyed me in the family, I have to put that aside because I want my son to have all that. I would never stand in the way of that relationship, and he gets so much love from my family. But there was a friend from primary school who I would know, and then when I was working for the BBC at the time, and we'd been friends for all that time, and she asked to borrow some money off me. About £700 was quite not an insignificant amount of money. And for something to do with her business, she, oh, I've left the money at home, can you just give it to me today? And I was like, OK, that's fine, you know, it's OK. She didn't mention that was in the August. Got to September, she started saying her business was having trouble. I was like, OK, well, I'm being the friend here, so I'm not going to pressure you for that £700, I can wait. Got to Christmas, and she just casually told me on the phone she'd booked a snowboarding trip to Andorra. I was like... And at that point, I'm so terrible around asking for money and all. I'm very, very awkward around money with people. And it got to the February and we had a social event that was already planned, and she turned up there, as I knew she would, but I couldn't speak to her. I was so angry. And she said, why aren't you talking to me? Oh, is it the money? And she knew there and then. I was like, you haven't forgotten that you haven't paid me. You purposefully have not paid me, thinking I'll just take it. So I never spoke to her again.
And to say she was
I've been friends with her since I was at primary school.
I know,
It's hard, isn't it? I think you get to that point, like Brenda was saying, where it goes for so long and then you're like, how do we rectify this? You know, we've kind of been in this for so long. And I think I'm one of those people, I will avoid confrontation at all costs. And I will kind of brush things under the carpet that I probably shouldn't. But I will take and take and take. And then one day I'll just go, nah, I've had enough. Once someone does something to me that I don't feel like I would ever do to them, I can't forget that. So I'm kind of like, you know, I keep everyone there and I'll keep everything fine. But one day I'll just switch and you're gone.
That's it. I mean, I do hope, you know, for William and Harry that perhaps looking at their own children, they'll think, what are they missing out on, you know? Because of our rift, you know, our children are missing out. You know,
They're all
your cousins and all that is so lovely, isn't it?
I think
Such a
it's
lovely
hard,
part
though,
of
isn't
life.
Because we don't know what actually happened,
No,
what's
that's
actually
true.
been said. So from the outside, we all desperately want it all to be OK and Diana and whatever, but we don't know how broken that relationship is.
No, but Diana would have loved all her grandchildren to be together, wouldn't she?
It's not a nice idea, absolutely. But that's it. I do wonder whether with family you do sometimes think, well, no matter that bond never breaks. Even if you're not speaking, you're still sort of held hostage by the fact that you're not speaking to them. They think you just think it'll wait, it'll wait,
but
it'll wait.
Then
until...
if they need you, then you'd be there.
That is very true, actually.
I think you can have that. I'm like that. I've got friends I haven't seen for years, but I would still, if one of them rang me and they needed me, I'd be there.
And I bet that's true for Harry and William. I bet that underneath it all is still true for them.